Hello, my fellow creators. Welcome back to Sonic Creations. So I have finally played the Sonic Frontiers DLC, the final Horizon. I'm feeling extremely mixed. All right, I'm just gonna go ahead and say this right off the bat because it's the first thing I have on my mind, but in regards to the gameplay aspect of the DLC, because the story's fine and I'll get into that in a little bit, but the gameplay really threw me off. Now, I think the controls of the characters are very similar to Sonic, which is a good thing. Like the base control of okay, you can jump around, the jump ball is the same, everything kind of looks the same. And again, that's a good thing. It's kind of like Sonic 3, how it's like there's a commonality, if that's a word, between all the characters, and so they can all go through the same levels at similar speeds. You know, maybe Sonic is still the fastest, but you can still get around the map, you know, and it doesn't feel sluggish or like Sonic 06 like really slowed down Amy and Knuckles. Here, that's not a problem. And Tails even. Tails wasn't even as fast as Sonic in 06, I'm pretty sure, like the OG 06, not Project 06, which is just amazing and fixes literally every problem I had with 06. But yeah, I think just this is really well-rounded and it's really well handled and it makes sense. My issue with the gameplay is not necessarily the gameplay. It's more so about the upgrade tree and how that works. So when I started the game, I honestly thought my controller was broken. I was like, why can't I stomp and why can't I punch? I'm Knuckles, I should be able to punch. I literally ran through Amy's part as fast as I could so I could get to Knuckles' part because I was so excited to play as Knuckles again. Like that was a really big thing, and it's just not at all what I had expected in a few areas. First of all, everyone's been talking about the gliding and how bad the gliding is. It's fine. It's not as responsive and fine-tuned as Sonic Adventure 2, and that is a problem because that game came out on the Dreamcast. That was in 99, early 2000s, right? That should not be a problem today. Now, of course, I don't know exactly how long they've been working on this DLC for. Obviously, they didn't have as long as the development time of the full game, right? So of Sonic's part, which is most of Sonic Frontiers. So obviously, fine-tuning Sonic's gameplay had already been done. And that's why it's so fun and feels polished. This doesn't feel as polished. It feels like it could use an update maybe in the future and sort of tweak things a little bit because some things are just a little bit off, and Knuckles' glide is one of those things, but it's not a deal breaker for me. As a matter of fact, what is a deal breaker for me that I don't know why I didn't anticipate this, but you can't just climb up walls. It baffles me. Maybe it's because he's in this holographic form, and that's why he can't touch the rocks and actually penetrate them with his knuckles and climb. You know what I mean? It does explain that, and he can only touch what's digital. They got away with it story-wise. I just figured it out in my head as I'm recording this, but it's not an excuse as to when someone thinks of playing as Knuckles, and the adventure games are totally to blame for this, and 06, they picture climbing up walls and punching things and drilling down into the ground, and when I can't do those three things, I feel landlocked. I feel like I can't move my character in the way that I anticipated, and I felt disappointed. I felt what is this? I can only glide and jump, and that's about it. Why is it that when you start the game as Sonic and the main campaign, you have the stomp, you have all those things, you have the punch, you don't need to go unlock that. They're very basic abilities, they should not be unlocked. I really think that was a terrible decision because I'm sitting there wondering, why does it feel like my controller is not working? I literally restarted my game because I thought my controller was not working. There were certain buttons that were not working. It was throwing me off heavily, and there was nothing that was telling you oh, you can unlock this and this, and I feel like it just didn't communicate with the player enough of what is going on? What are we doing? It sort of just throws you in, and it's all right, go find the Chaos Emeralds, and it's okay, but can we get a little bit of an introduction of what's different about this world, and what can Knuckles do? What can't he do? They didn't do a very good job of that, and it's fine because I figured it out in a minute, but that 1 to 5 minutes of just trying to figure that out was really frustrating, and it really made me go what is this? Really? They're just not gonna let you punch or something? I don't know. I really disagree with that being an upgradable thing. So that's one of my biggest complaints with the other characters that are playable is that they should have started with a few more of the basic abilities like punching and stomping. That should be a no-brainer. Even though it doesn't take that long to unlock these basic abilities, like I just feel like if you started with them, the gameplay would be a lot smoother, because I just feel like I'm handcuffed while trying to play this game. It's honestly what it feels like. It's just something is restricting certain abilities, and that is not fun. It's just not. It's a super struggle, and I think most can agree, just to get this game going, just to get the characters going and getting them to feel good, you know, and to feel like you can trust that they'll do the job when things get intense with either platforming or combat. So I think that the difficulty as well is just insanely increased. I think to an almost unfair degree when it comes to some of the towers, and also just some of the challenges, just the regular challenges you come across in the open world with the characters, you know. Even as Amy, I found some really challenging ones that I'm like, this is just kind of annoying. It's not even really challenging. It's that her jump is super high, and then her extra tarot card gliding jump is also super high up in the air, and so it's just hard to platform with someone who's shooting up into the air like 50 feet every time I want to get to another platform. So it's got its imperfections, and I feel like things were just not perfectly adjusted to the way that they should be, and that's really my issue. But I do want to add that once you unlock all the abilities for these characters, they are very fun. Some of the most fun I've had in a Sonic game in a while, especially with Amy Rose. I feel like her character is the highlight of all the characters, which is so unexpected, but a welcome thing, because she doesn't usually get the spotlight. She doesn't usually get the best moveset or gameplay. When you look at Sonic Adventure, she was much slower, fun in her own right, but much slower and more sluggish. Same thing with 06. Adventure 2, she was more on par with Sonic's gameplay, but just had annoying voice lines and was not as fun because she just had way less abilities. But what I like about this is that they're enhancing these characters with new abilities that we've never seen before, and with the popularity of classic Amy and her tarot cards, I like how that's being transitioned over to the modern characters, to the modern version of Amy. You know, I really like that. Another thing I noticed, everything has a bit of a delay, especially the flying, the gliding, whether it's with Knuckles, you know, dreadlocks, or with Tails as Tails. There is a delay, like a little jump start they have to do before they can actually just do their thing. And again, why are we going backwards? Why do they want to do these things that it's like, it's already perfect? Why do you think people are freaking out over Project 06? Because it's already perfect. Don't fix what's not broken, you know? It should be very simple. You press the button, the character flies, or glides, or whatever it is, right? You hit the homing attack, there shouldn't be even a millisecond delay. It should just be immediate. Things just feel really sluggish and delayed. And then, watch. I'm gonna make this complaint, and a lot of people are gonna make these complaints, and then they're gonna say, see? Nobody likes multiple playable characters. And it's like, no, that's not the issue. The issue is that you keep, like, there's just these weird little things that I don't know why they're there. So, look, I know I'm getting a bit heated, but like, I thought this was a no-brainer. It doesn't add anything to the gameplay for a character to delay their movements. It's a Sonic game. Why would you do that? Like, I just don't get it. I really don't. So, again, here we are in a situation where modders are gonna come in, and they're gonna tweak things up to make it more enjoyable and more fun, and it's like, why can't the official team just do that for once? For God's sake. You know, I just don't get it, you know? So I just think that there needs to be some sort of a small update that can fix these things, but I feel like I'm just asking too much at this point. I really want them to just move on to the next project and stop updating this game, honestly. Like, what it is what it is, and it's fine, and it's still fun. I just want to be clear here. I still had fun, okay? And I do want to go back and take more of my time playing it a second time around, and really try to understand more what they were going for and just get more used to it. But I hope this isn't a blueprint for the future, because I don't want them to do these whole delay and movement stuff. That's just such a bad game design idea. I think everything else in terms of story, if we want to get into that now that I've complained, the story is actually really good. I like the interactions between the characters. I love the references to Sonic Adventure with Tails and Eggman, where Eggman's like, oh, what are you gonna do without Sonic? And Tails is like, oh, I beat you in Station Square, remember? Like, I'm good. Like, I can take you. Like, Tails is gaining some of his confidence back, and I really like that. Any references to past events is like, I love it. It's something I've been asking for, so I'm glad they did that. And I want to praise the writing, and the characters feel really good in terms of their dialogue, and just like they feel accurate. No one is saying anything out of character or that seems too cheesy or corny. Like, it all fits into this narrative, and everyone's performances are great. Roger sounds great. Everyone sounds great. So, especially Mike Pollock as Eggman, I really love his more toned down, less all over the place. He's kind of more he's kind of more down here. He's kind of just talking, and I like that. Like, we get to see the scientist in Eggman come out and just sort of have him comment on what's going on, like, oh, there's no magic. Like, I'm sure we can find the science behind this. I'm just going to keep studying it. Like, I love that. I honestly love that he just will not take the answer of magic. He has to find the scientific. It's just perfect. That's like every scientist. They basically turned him into Neil deGrasse Tyson, and I love it. It's a very good trait for him to have, just being obnoxiously scientific about everything that happens. I love it. So the dialogue is very well written. I enjoyed it thoroughly. The final boss and the new transformation, so there is another level to the transformation, but that is pretty much it. For those who were hoping for like a whole boss battle where you were in different transformation, like for the whole time, you may be a little disappointed, because it's only just like the very end. Sonic gets into this blue cyber form that we originally theorized would be red. So it's blue. I guess that makes sense because his eyes were blue, but I still don't understand exactly how it makes Supersonic more powerful to be enhanced with this like cyber energy. And I still don't understand what's the difference between red and blue. And is there a red version of what we saw, that we could see in the future, or is it really just blue? So I don't know, but it did look incredibly cool. It gave me some Dark Supersonic vibes and some Dark Spine Sonic vibes from Sonic and the Secret Rings. So I really like that. It's cool to just get new transformations in general. I'm glad they see that there was a missed opportunity there to do something like that. So I'm really, really happy about that. Now that I think about it, a blue cyber form does make more sense because it's Sonic at the end of the day, and he doesn't really have like a blue transformation, so I'm cool with it. It's great. As far as animating that myself, that's not happening. That would be one of the hardest retextures to do, because his whole like texture is constantly moving. Like, that would be incredibly difficult to replicate. But yeah, I think that is a much better final boss, 100%. That was incredible. That is some of their best work I've ever seen on a final boss. It was just the music with like bringing back that early 2000s, like I guess I say that because Sonic 06 did that with the His World theme. They had like an orchestrated version that played in the final boss with Solaris. So I love seeing something like that brought back here. It just makes the whole thing feel more epic. Just to be clear about the soundtrack, this is one of the best soundtracks we've gotten out of this franchise in like a good while. As iffy as the games have been, their soundtracks are always great, but this is like up there. It's up there with the greats. Like the adventure games and the storybook games. It's up there. The music in this is just brilliant. Also Sonic Unleashed vibes, because Sonic Unleashed did the same thing with its music. It was very orchestrated, and so I don't know, whenever it gets orchestrated like that and it lines up with the main theme, there's just these chills that you get, like, man, this is so fucking awesome. And I definitely got those from playing this. So I think that's my overall thoughts. I don't want to drag this video out too long. I just wanted to give you guys my brief thoughts of what I think about this DLC, and yeah, I think it's great. I'm really, really enjoying what they put together, and I hope that we get more DLC like this for future Sonic games, where they're like, oh, here's an alternate ending, or here's like a extra story campaign, here's what Tails was doing during this story, and here's what Shadow was doing during this story that we didn't get to see originally. I like stuff like that sort of peels back another layer on the story and allows you to experience something new that you didn't anticipate or expect, or that fans were begging for. I mean, seriously, we were really hoping that the final boss would be better than just like a mobile game shooter. It really did feel like so anticlimactic when I played it for the first time. I still enjoy the base game of Frontiers, don't get me wrong. I still think that that's fine, but that final boss really turned me off originally, so this one was just incredible. So overall, if I were to give this a rating, I don't usually do ratings, but if I were to, I would say this is probably a 7 out of 10 experience. You know, I think what would bring it up to an 8 or a 9 is if the things I complained about earlier in the video with the gameplay, and then also if we just had more time in that cyber transformation, and maybe if we got a little bit more emotional dialogue. Even with this DLC, the stakes didn't feel incredibly high, and it's partially because like, where even are we in terms of like, where is this like, where are the Starfall Islands in regards to everything else in Sonic's world? So I think what they should do in the future maybe is make a map, and I know that may kill the sense of wonder you get when thinking of Sonic's world if you know where everything is, but in my opinion, having like a globe, I mean, we've already had that with Sonic Unleashed, so that does like 80% of the work, but just to add in like where all these other places are, you know, about the lore of the humans and that sort of like alternate version of human history that is a little bit similar to ours, but also very different. There's all these different cultures and all this kind of stuff, and I guess I just really miss the humans. That's what motivated me in Sonic Unleashed to beat the game and feel like there are stakes. There are very high stakes at the end of it. Same with Sonic 06. I feel like that's just something that is fundamentally missing in past Sonic games, and this one is no exception. So I think that's my final criticism and my final thing that I want to say. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed what you watched, consider subscribing and becoming a creator. The next episode of Sonic Cybernetics is on its way. I really appreciate you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.